What you pulling up?
What?
A cigar.
Hold up.
I like it.
You like that?
I like it. She with it.
You like that?
She with
How
it.
you even hold this?
She with it.
Well, you don't even know how to hold it?
It's like this.
You gotta hit it with the leg crossing.
Hey, y'all, what's up? Welcome to another episode of If You Know, You Know podcast.
I'm your host, Natalie Taste.
I'm your host, B. Cherie, and we are recording live at B. Cherie Studio.
So get ready, y'all, because if you know, you know, and if you don't, you're about to find out.
Today we have the remarkable figure in the finance world. Yeah, you like that? Okay. None other than Wallstreet Trapper, known for his approach to investing, his infectious energy, his not your typical financial guru, with his relatable story and invaluable insights, his mission to bring financial literacy to the urban community and help everyday person find their financial freedom, y'all. Welcome to the show, Mr. Wallstreet Trapper.
Good. That was really good. God, I like that. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate this. It's a vibe.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
I like what y'all have going on right here. Y'all look amazing.
Talk
Talk
about it. I feel good. I feel good. So I think we're going to get into the drinks we have today.
Okay.
We know you don't drink. You're actually not drinking until sundown.
Yeah.
So be sure you want some as well.
Yes.
It's a zero proof whiskey.
I know, and you're excited about that.
Yeah. So I'm not drinking right now. So it's really more so about glassware for me. So I'm excited about this. It's called Ritual Whiskey Alternative.
I wonder how that, like, have you ever had a zero proof alcohol before?
Really?
I thought we were going to try it.
Okay, cool.
Oh, cut up.
Okay, there we go then. Cheers.
All right, period. Thank you for helping
my
us
water
out.
out my
I'm
cup.
going to help y'all out. I'm going to help y'all out.
So I be in the streets a lot, so.
Okay.
Okay.
That came out right? That came out right?
Not really, but you had to acknowledge it. Thank you. So with drinking, I feel like the drinks are always coming around. So for someone else that does not drink, do you find it like hard to explain why you don't drink in those settings?
Nope. I think there is no explanation for it. I think some people drink, some people don't, and I think either way that doesn't stop the vibe, right? I think it's my energy gonna be infectious regardless. Right, I'm always bring a vibe to anything we doing. So I've even bought bottles for the club and not drunk a bottle.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because I know just because I don't drink, that don't mean other people don't. And I still want to partake in the vibe. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for that, Queen. I appreciate you.
Of course.
Can we just salute to this, what we doing?
Yeah.
Can we salute to that one time, just for a great show one time? So
cheers and salute.
I like it.
Woo! It's good.
It has a spice.
Got a little spice to it.
I feel as though
I ain't mad
I'm
at
drinking for real. So
It has a spice.
Mad at it.
It's better than like sipping watered down Coke. It is. Okay.
I like it. Salute to that.
All right, so we just go dive straight into it.
All right.
You were homeless at 14.
Yep.
So, you know, homeless is subjectional for each person. It varies. What did that actually look like for you? Like, were you living from family member to family member, or were you like out on the street?
No, I was outside. So my mom's went to prison when I was 13, and then my grandmother passed away. I was just in a situation where it's not that your family don't love you. Sometimes they just don't have room for another mouth at the table. You know what I'm saying? And I did go to Delaware by my uncle for a little bit, but in a matter of like 60 days, I caught like 2 charges out there. Oh, wow. And so my uncle had to send me back home. And so when I came home, you know, I ain't really had nowhere. So I was back in Mid-City. So for about maybe like 8 months, I lived between this bando and this like abandoned car. So I would go back and forth between the two. And then every now and then, you know, I'll go with my aunt, I'll take a bath, I'll do something, but that was kind of the life. And then my aunt, who was using drugs, I moved in with her. And that situation was kind of dire, if I can say, because so she was on drugs and then the landlord was on drugs. And so I got my first real crib because I was able to give the landlord $25 a month to stay in the crib. And so that was kind of, I ain't had nothing in there, but you know, so it's just finding ways to just not be defeated. New Orleans has a way of infecting you or vaccinating you with this, like, never give up, never surrender, that resiliency. It like is in us. So, you know, I was able to just like persevere through that. So between like 14, almost 16, that was kind of like my life. You know what I'm saying? Even when I was going to school, I was still dealing with those situations, and school kind of gave me a sense of normalcy. You know what I'm saying?
So before your mom got shot,
so that was when I was 9.
you were right. Yeah. So were you exposed to like that lifestyle prior to, or that was like a product?
Nah, for sure. So my mom's. So around this time, we was living in the A ward, 1801 St. Roch. I never forget that because it was the way the house was positioned was kind of eerie. It was like the cemetery was on one side, and then the park was on another side, and we lived on a corner. And so I remember seeing my mom get shot, but my mom was hustling. So, you know, we talking 91-ish. So, you know, that was a different type of New Orleans back then. And so this was when people were still drinking Cisco, and you know what I'm saying? That was, you feel Mad Dog. So it was kind of that era, you know? So my mom always had this idea that if this is New Orleans, this is our life, and if anybody gonna expose it to him, I'm gonna expose it to him. I'm gonna just keep it 100 with him, and whatever he decided to be is on him. And some people may not agree with that, but that shit made me who I am right now. And so when I saw my mama get shot, it kind of like, it was so vivid, and it kind of just altered like how I looked at life early. I knew that in some way, shape, or form, that would probably be my fate too, right? You start to normalize dysfunction when you are living in it. You're birthing, you're overwhelmed by it. So that was kind of my life. My grandmother kind of tried to fight with my mama to, like, you don't need to expose them to that, but it's kind of hard not to expose you to something that you're surrounded by.
It's the standard for that.
Yeah, it's the standard. It's the standard for that community. So I remember just playing hide and go seek in the graveyard. You know what I'm saying? And so
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
It's New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's a spooky city, but what was your grandmother like?
So that's an amazing question. So nobody ever asked me that before. My grandmother was the gray area between hustler and law-abiding citizen, right? So she had went to prison earlier for food stamp fraud, check fraud, early. This one food stamps was books. You know what I'm saying? So, you feel me? And so this was like early before I was born, but the hustle was still in her. So I remember my grandmother had started this fruit company, and she bought like 3 trucks, and she would make me get up in the morning at like 2:00 in the morning. We would drive to Mississippi, load the trucks up, come back to New Orleans. I would have to get ready for school. That was early on. And so she navigated me seeing the hustle, but me seeing it the right way, but also understanding like what my mama was going through, and trying to tell her, like, if you don't change, like, what are you doing for him? You know what I'm saying? So that was Grams. She was a product of New Orleans. And so, you know, that is so diverse. And so that became like what I saw. So I saw my grandmother being an entrepreneur, and then I saw my mama just being a full-fledged hustler. And so that was the ingredients that like helped me be me.
You don't talk about your dad often, but on one of your interviews with Full Transparency, you said something that like really like struck home for me. Talking about your daughter, and you mentioned how you were envious of her. Do you think that being so present in her life, it made you that way? And since then, do you find that you're a stronger father, or do you think that you like overcompensate in some way?
Come on, homework. Come on, homework. So I don't talk about my dad because I never met him. I had a situation where I probably was maybe 32. So I had just had my daughter. And my mama called me one day, and she was just like, yo, your dad wants to meet you. And I was like, my who? Nah, you tripping. And she was like, he about to die.
Wow.
And so in that moment, I'll be honest, you know, whether I was right or wrong, I probably have to answer to God about it. I was like, well, shit, just let him die. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't care to meet him. I was 32 at the time. I hadn't already made sacrifices for my daughter at the time. And so, like, in that moment, I felt like that was real selfish, right? I felt like you on your dying bed. I done been homeless. I done been shot. I done been almost kidnapped. I done did 10 years in prison. Like, bro, you ain't never show up. What you talking about you want to meet me right now? You know what I'm saying? I was like, nah, you got to go to your grave with that, fam.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I never, and then my mama kind of had conflict behind that. Cause she was like, I know what somebody want to say, cause they call me my first name. She was like, Leon. She was like, you can't be so cold-hearted. And I was like, man, blame life.
That's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
To be in your mid-30s
Yeah.
and to be faced with the opportunity of even meeting him or recognizing him in that moment, but then knowing that he's about to pass.
Yeah.
So you probably have all kind of questions
Yeah.
in your head, like why now?
Yeah.
What happened? You need a liver. You didn't know,
Yeah.
like just trying to
Yeah.
figure it out
Yep.
and understand it.
That was it.
But I mean, in that instance, it's kind of like you would never know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that today, that decision?
I don't think about it, but I do know that there are parts of my life parts of me that my mama can't explain, right? There are things that I do that I know are 100% not of her. You know what I'm saying? And I know that, I understand that. And I think sometimes you just, listen, we not gonna make all the right decisions in life. We learn from them. And I do think that him not being there made me such a dope ass dad.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Why you crying? Don't you cry.
Oh, I'm not crying.
Don't you cry on me.
No, I just love your words.
I love that.
Yeah. I think that just.
There's a box of tissue in the window, but she's gonna need tissue and not hard.
Nah, you good. I love it.
I'm good.
I think that's what made me such a dope father. In the beginning, me and my daughter mama, we didn't see it right. And it was because of my wrongs. My traumas, my normalcy to chaos. And, you know, as men, we can kind of blame stuff on not having a father. And a lot of times women be like, yeah, that's an excuse, but nah, that's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not an excuse, but at the same time, we can't use it as a crutch as men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got to do something different. And so I made the conscious decision to go to her and be like, look, I ain't do it all right, but we got a little one. Let's work. And salute to her because she was willing to do the work with me. She ain't hold it against me. She ain't never was on no, nothing crazy. And from day one, since my daughter was born, I haven't missed a day. And I overcompensate. You know what I'm saying? Because little girls, not even little boys too, but like fathers are super important. And that's why I'm envious of my daughter in certain moments because I don't care where I'm at in the world. She call me and be like, Daddy, can you come home? I'll be like, yup, I'm on the next thing coming.
Wow.
I'm on the next thing going. I moved them by me in Atlanta. I moved them in their own crib. And she'll be like, Daddy, come get me. I'm like, bet I'm on my way. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I'm envious of that because sometimes I ask myself, how would my life have turned out if I just had half of what she had?
But you have to also look at it like generationally, we want that. Like that's the whole point, is to create a life of ease and legacy and to make your children have better, experience better. So you've gone through all this adversity in your life prior to, especially dealing with family members, and then now you have your kids. You were on the Ellen show. Like, was that a moment where you felt like I made it? Or what was that moment where you can say all of that I've been through? Yeah. This is where I am.
Ellen was super dope for me. I think when you start something, you have a vision. And so the vision for me was, how do I unthread the needle that is consistent through every neighborhood I've grown up in, especially New Orleans, right? Which is like poverty, and it's not saying all of New Orleans is poverty, but where I grew up, it was poverty. It was people working 2 jobs barely to survive. And it was being at 30-something years old, being in more funerals than weddings. You know what I'm saying? Normalizing lack, not having, going to certain things. What happens when tradition becomes the anchor to poverty? Yeah. Right? What happens when the tradition is what keeps you down? And so I was like, yo, like, man, I gotta do something different, yo. And so when I started investing and, I came home from prison, I was like, yo, this shit gonna change. In my mind, I was like, I can get dudes from hustling. And so when I got to the Ellen show, I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah. We made it.
Yeah, like, so I can honestly say that is one of those moments that I'll never forget. To be in Hollywood and then to honestly go on a show and everybody knew me.
Wow.
It was like, oh, Trap.
Okay.
What's up, Trap?
Yes,
and then to go in the back and there's a sign that says like the Ellen DeGeneres show, room for Wallstreet Trapper. I was like, oh, this is crazy. Yeah. So that let me know that you can come from nothing, and if you just stay true to what you're doing, like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. So the whole financial journey started when you were in jail. So we want to kind of go back there to that time in your life, where we were experiencing that. You talked about 16, 10 years.
Yeah.
Facing a murder charge, like people, attempted murder charge. People don't really, like, we be on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Right.
But what are the feelings that you're feeling to know that this is the charge, right? Like, we know you live the life, whatever, all those things. But when you're actually in that moment of like, I'm about to I'm about to do time. This is about to change things. This idea of freedom that I have can be different. What are some of those?
I will say that the courtroom was the most scariest place I had ever been in at 16. It's because in that moment I realized that I had no control over my life. You think you have control until you no longer have it. And then I knew that somebody else had the power to navigate my life. And so I will say that leading up to doing that act, shooting a man 6 times, I still think about that to this day, because our culture by default glorifies violence because we've normalized it. And at that age, I had no value for my life. Like, I ain't know that, like, being a dad or being a grandfather, being a husband, like, none of that is in my trajectory. It ain't my future.
Right.
And so you have no value for life, and then your life is only valued on the neighborhood you're around. So it's, yo, this my hood, I'm willing to die for it. This my homies I grew up with. The only way they know I'm loyal is I'm willing to shoot for them or bang out for them or ride for them. So those values are so misconstrued, right? And then, y'all want to hold it for that? Are y'all good? It's on y'all. You good? All right. And then my OGs probably didn't grow up with father figures. And so now they're inserting their perspective on life and what I should be and how I should grow up and what's real and what's a man. And so you take those things in, and then one of the things that would normalize was like shooting.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, this how you regulate.
I always think, like, go ahead, Bishri. I always think, like, how do you, when in that act, like, how do you block it out? But it seems as though you didn't have to block it out because that answer was loyalty.
That's it. And I think in that situation too, because part of my trauma was I was dealing with a female. She set me up. That's how I wound up getting robbed. And then now in my mind, I'm like, I can't go back in my neighborhood and hustle if the neighborhood knows that this person robbed me, right? And it's a difference between robbing somebody and like jacking somebody.
Yeah.
Robbing somebody, you like got a mask on, so he ain't had no mask on. He just caught me slipping. And so in my mind, I'm now fair game.
Yeah.
So now you gotta regulate that, right? And it's a bad position because these are the rules to the game. And in order, you either gonna be a predator, you're gonna be a gazelle, or you're gonna be a hyena or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta choose. And so I was like, damn. So I went to my OGs and I was like, bro, like this was up. And my OG was like, you know what you gotta do. And so that's the response.
Right.
It's like, I bet. And so nobody's there to talk you out of that situation.
Yeah.
And then after you do it, you're like, oh, I just did that. And as a 16-year-old, you know, you go through the thoughts of, damn, like I saw my mama get shot. Okay, now I'm on the other end. And so when you do that time, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was numb to it. I ain't really feel it. I'm 16. I was like, all right, 10 years, I'll be home. I'm 26. I ain't tripping, shot. I'll probably come back again.
You've seen a lot in jail. Like you say, you've seen niggas get raped, get burned, get stabbed, like all of that. Have you ever had those moments in jail where, you know, you felt like it came straight out of a movie outside of that? Like somebody ever tried to like take your cornbread? You know, like
prison is such a horrible place. And at 16, I was exposed to so much. Like I got a cut right here. I got a cut in my back. You are forced to be a man, and you learn on the fly. I'll be lying if I said I wasn't petrified. You know what I'm saying? I'll be lying. But you learn to walk with the fear, you know, and you realize that I will not leave here anything other than what I came here as. And that's the only thing I stood on. And so then, you know, get my ass up in a fight, that didn't matter to me because in prison, that's not the deciding factor. Right? Everybody gonna lose a fight, right? That's cool. But it's how do you represent yourself as a man? How do you stand up as a man? How do you communicate as a man? How do you respect other men? How do you make other men respect you? Because it's in prison, you know, you gotta take that. Some people get it, and some people gotta take it. And that comes in different forms. You gotta remember, I'm 16, I'm probably $130, 130 pounds.
You're a baby.
Yeah,
You're a
like,
little guy.
yeah, so like, I remember having fights with dudes that was like 26, 27, and they ain't taking no mercy. Ain't no mercy.
You're a man.
You know what I'm saying? You a man. If you bold enough to shoot somebody, you bold enough to. So I learned a lot in that. And then by the time I was like 21, I was like, bet, this is what we doing. Yeah.
What's your favorite molly?
Cookies. Check out.
Wait, what is it again?
A molly. It's like a hookup. So like when you're in jail, you don't have like, shut up. A molly. You don't have.
Molly.
Yes. You don't have like food. So you got to take
I know
what
about the
you
hookup
have
action.
and make
All right,
it.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So we had a few of them that, so yeah, we had to. It's crazy because I came home and made one on YouTube. So I had access to more stuff.
He was a molly chef.
Yeah, I had access to most stuff. But prison does teach you that that those are some of the most creative people.
Innovative.
Innovative.
If you put them in if they're resourceful, and so put them in the right environment where you can bring out their strong points, you'll probably have some of the greatest people in the world, men and women, right? If you think about it, there's a thing on how you heat up stuff. So we would take the wires from the light, a piece of cardboard, and some aluminum foil, and put the two wires inside of the plug, put water in the cooler.
Fucking engineer.
And that would heat up the water.
Electrician.
And then you take the moly, you put it in the plastic, you take it out when it's finished, and it's cooked.
Easy bake.
What?
It's cooked. Like, and so think about what it takes a person to configure that in their brain. You know what I'm saying? So some of the most brilliant people, the circumstance often deviate you from purpose. It can.
Yeah, we're definitely products of our environment.
Yeah.
You did say earlier that when you went in at 16, you knew that you might be right back.
Yeah.
So my brother's doing 10 right now. He gets home soon.
Just
Yeah,
salute.
congrats.
Yeah.
Salute.
So, any advice for how he can, we can make sure that he doesn't go back, or what he can do to avoid that?
You can't. He has to.
Right.
No
But
matter
even
what
as a
you do.
family, like, what can we do also to help him when,
Yeah.
like, on his transition back home?
So honestly, it is a personal decision. Like, you can have the right environment, you can put him in all the right places, but there's a ticking clock in your head that puts unnecessary pressure on you.
What do you mean?
Meaning, so he come home from 10 years, in his mind, while he's in prison, he sees so many things going on, and he has an idea what he want to do when he come home, right? He has an idea, he has a vision of his life. He has a woman, he has how he want to live, how he want to dress, what he wants to see, and then for him, he'll put himself on a time clock, and he'll put that pressure on himself, and then once he feels the pressure is too much, he resorts back to what he knows.
I hear that, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that because that was me.
Mm-hmm.
I went to prison at 16. I come home 26. I ain't had a dime, right? Even though I learned how to invest in prison, I still had to come home and get some money. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, man, I'm back in the trenches, man. This is what we doing.
It's easy to resort back to comfort, to what you know. Like, it takes a lot to step outside of the norm.
Yep.
I found that you was making money though.
Well, it was afterwards, but here's what happens. Once the programming is set, you have to, as an individual, go in. Like, when you have a computer, there's a part of the computer where it says the computer can do it, and then there's another part that says manually. The manual part is you going in yourself and setting the default buttons different, right? And so for me, that's what I had to do, but it took situation. So you're right, I came home, I was hustling, and then I got a job working as an iron worker. But the hustle was in me at that point, right? And it may seem like, nigga, you crazy, nigga, you stupid. Yeah, but it's in me, it's wired. I've been hardwired this way my whole life, right? And it's to the point where you looking at people like, you watching people work and you like, yo, the people who I'm watching living a modest life, they struggling. So you like, hustling is my only way to freedom.
Right.
But it took for me to catch another charge, get found not guilty, but that still wasn't it. It was another situation where me and my homie went hit a lick together. The lick didn't go right. And the dude wound up having another pistol to my head. And my homie like, bro, look, I can't stop you from killing my dog, but if you kill him, both of y'all gonna be dead. And it's God's grace that the dude made the right decision. And in that moment, I'm like, all right, dog, like after we finished that, I gave my dog the money from it, God bless it. So he wound up passing away from sickle cell. I said, son, I'm done. I'm like, I'm done. So even catching another charge didn't make me say the streets ain't it.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't until I was about to get killed after I had done been shot, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, all right, bro, like, we can't keep shaking the dice and expecting not to crap out.
That's like, so the street has a code, right? There's like this code of ethic that you get in the streets. It's like women and children off limits, all this. Like, and now we know nobody is keeping the code. But like, do you find that way of thinking in our community, to put a code on it is still criminal activity, is still damaging? Like, do you feel like in our community there is a pass for certain moral street codes, or do you feel like at this point get rid of the codes and just?
I think that due to lack of resources, people resort to survival, right? What I know now about like financial literacy and investing, I truly feel that if you put those resources to people in the street, we can get rid of that. If I'm being honest with you, like, the codes are necessary when that's all you have.
Yeah, it's like the rules, like the underground.
It's like when that's all you have. But there is another game, which is why I got into the market. And in that game truly doesn't involve me, I'll say this on here, like I've made over $5 million just investing in the stock market, right? And that game doesn't require me to look over my shoulder, put my life on the line. I go to sleep at peace, right? And what happens is when we don't have the resources and the exposure, we resort to whatever we have. We resort to these extreme measures, right? But then that exposure changes how you see life. That shit changed how I see life. And it's just like the streets. It really ain't no different. And once that changed my life, right now, even in like the communities that I have, there's so many dudes that's from the streets and they be like, Trap, bro, it's just like the street. And you can make more money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, that's what you in the streets for. The streets give you an illusion of freedom. And at the end of the day, people, and I say this and people don't get it when I say it in the first, but after they think on it, people really don't care about money. They care more about freedom.
Yeah.
The money is a byproduct to get you free. And so because we've been taught that we need to get the money, then we focus on the money. But in actuality, we become slaves to the money and we never get to the freedom.
That's why you hear like sometimes people that have money still are unhappy, still don't have the things they want because they've only used the resource. They've never allowed themselves to actually like do the deep work to see what it is that they want, that freedom from the life. Like for me, time is my most valuable.
100%. 100%.
Time. So if money is going to buy me more time, then
that's what it's for. It's the leverage. So there's people, I said this the other day to one of my friends, I said there's people that only know how to use money and there's people that know how money is used. It's two different mindsets.
Say it again.
There's people that only know how to use money. And then there's people that know how money is used. Right? And so what happens is money is a
tool.
Watch this. It's a wicked master, but a faithful servant. Right?
I like that.
Money is a wicked master, but it's such a faithful servant.
Yeah.
And the people who only know how to use money, they're being mastered by it. But the people that know how to use money, it's their servant. And so once we learn that, the whole game changes for us, which is why so many wealthy people, I just looked at something that said the wealthy people of America now are worth $66 trillion, right? And what happens is the people that know how to use money understand that in the worst economic times in the world is when you can become the richest.
Yeah, chaos. Like if everything happens in chaos. Success comes from
that's what it comes from. But in the streets, we also know this. We can make more money in a drought.
Yes.
Right? And so those two worlds actually are like first cousins. The difference is murder for wealth. Murder is a part of American culture as Disney World, right? But the people on Wall Street don't care about murder because it means more to them to make sure their opponent, like I don't want your wife to go to the lot. I want your kids to be poor. That's the way they beef with each other. Like, I want your kids.
They're trying to wipe out generations.
I don't want to kill you. That's the easy way out.
Right,
I want you to suffer. I want your kids to be poor. I don't want you to be a billionaire. I want you to be worth less than $100,000. I don't want you to go to private school no more.
Loser.
You feel me? And that's their version of like war.
Yeah.
But America has a whole different type of thing. And then for us, like we striving to freaking get from behind the 8 ball and we strive with this financial trauma that we have, right? Because we've never been taught. We've never been taught the game.
So what's one of the biggest myths about financial literacy or investing that you feel?
That you need a lot of money to start. I think that's what cripples a lot of people. If the first thing when I'm talking to somebody, they be like, man, Trap, I don't got enough money for that. And then my thing is, all right, watch this. Go look how much money you did use and waste that you did not get a return from. Right? And like, I'm not the person to tell you not to buy. So there's a thing like live below your means. Man, I've been poor
all my life.
I ain't never about to live below my means, man. You tripping.
Moving on up.
Tripping. I'm about to live below my means. Y'all can keep that. But what I will say is, like, you don't have to keep up with nobody. Like, understand where your comfort zone at. And I always say that you should invest more than you save. You should save more than you spend, and you should spend less than you have to.
Mm.
Right? And so,
That's so tough.
yeah.
Spending it just feels good. And I know that it does. It's a literal like.
It lets off endorphins.
You know, it just
that crazy.
So
it lets off endorphins. But what happens is, watch this. Spending money lets off endorphins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think happens when you take your money and your money makes more money?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
They gotta
tap
into it.
Feel better when you're getting money.
Yep.
I found $6 in my pocket.
Like, ooh, we pocket. Where did it come from?
I won a fucking lottery. I was like, Lord, yes. It was 6 little balled up dollars from the washing machine.
Relationship.
You know, you
it's
just
a fact.
feel good.
It's a fact.
Feel good.
And this game allows us to print money legally with no limit. So when you see people say like, yo, this man increased his net worth by $12 billion this day, it wasn't because he worked hard.
Right.
It's because his stocks went up.
Mm.
Right? We look at Donald Trump right now, they're saying like he worth $7 billion right now because the stock that he has partnered with another company and the stock went crazy. It went up 50% in a day. So he went from barely being able to pay $400 and something million to now being worth $7.6 billion.
Quick.
Right? And it's because his stock went up. Most of the wealthy people in the world, they're not cash rich, they asset rich. Right? And that's what kills our community and our culture because we only know how to use money. But also, that's what makes the streets so popular because it's an illusion of I'm touching a lot of money. At the end of the day, the game is about money. We playing a money game, right? And so
America is the only, not to cut you short, America the only one that plays the money game like that.
Because everybody else plays the money game, but they don't condition their people to be consumers, right? So America is a consumer-based economy. So in order for America to thrive, people got to spend a lot of money, right? In order for people to spend a lot of money, people got to now spend money that they don't have. And then America gets to print a lot of money, right? And as long as the country goes in debt, the country goes in debt, but the smart people know that, yo, I don't care about the cash, I just want the assets, right? And so now what happens when the country goes into a recession, the people who are smart say, okay, cool. The people who are living above their means, now they can't afford to live that way. So now they got to sell me their assets at a dirt cheap price. I get to buy their assets at a real cheap price and increase my net worth. And so that's just how the game keep getting played.
I'm always looking for like ways to fix that. So you said like the money is that's what everyone's after. So I be trying to find ways to fix that. So I asked like one of my young boys, like he's in the streets for the most part. And I'm like, well, when you were in school, if they like paid you money to make good grades, like you would have fooled with that? He was like, absolutely.
Facts.
So it's like, okay, that we have the money, like just put it there. You can watch the difference of them being in the streets trying to jack people to get money, and then instead of just like making the grades, because they got the mind. They have the mind for it. So they end up being put in these positions. So I do want to know, outside of financial literacy, like what valuable things did you learn like while you were in jail?
I learned so much in prison, man. Respect was such a huge thing. A lot of who I am as a man, I'll be honest, I learned in prison. A lot of things about who I am as a man, I learned in prison because you watch so many dudes make. No,
I'm just
nah, you watch.
But what things though? Like, who are you?
I'm about to say. So, who am I as a man?
Yeah, like what things you from jail to be today?
So what happens is you watch so many dudes go through things, and you learn from them. And so one of the most important things for me in prison was just the respect thing was so huge. And the reason why it was so huge was because disrespect emotionally puts another person in an emotional state that they can't always justify the behavior that comes behind it. Right? So if a person feels disrespected, you never know what the repercussions behind that is. Right? And so I lead with respect with everything that I do. And that was something that I didn't really have as a youngin'. But as I started seeing it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Another thing is just how to operate. And this is real, just I talked to a lot of men in prison that had concepts around marriage and being like head of the house and how they left their family behind for selfish reasons. Because you can say that I'm in the streets to feed my family, but in essence, it's selfish. Because if you go to prison, then what you're doing?
Putting them at risk.
You putting them at risk, right?
Nope.
And you get killed for being in the streets, then you're not doing it for your family. So it's a selfish reason. And I learned about being selfless in prison. Because a lot of dudes, when they speaking from regret is such a powerful thing and painful at the same time. Because you start, when you regret, you're like, damn, these are the things I should have done. And I could have changed, I could have hindsight, I could have looked at this a little bit different. And so that was something I learned. Like, if I'm selfless in the beginning, I won't deal with so much regret on the back end.
That's fire. I respect and being selfless.
Yeah.
So, like, when it comes down to financial literacy and...
Hold up now, I got something for y'all.
Okay. You good? Oh.
What you pulling up?
What? A cigar.
Hold up.
I like it.
You like that?
I like it. She with it.
Like that?
She with it.
How you even hold this?
She with it.
Well, you don't even know how to hold it?
It's like this.
You gotta hit with the leg crossing.
I got something else.
You
A
got
mustache?
Can't be cool.
No.
I just feel like if we're here, we're gonna do it, okay?
So we talk about finances. Let's get into character fact. We
Thank
got
you
money.
so much.
Let's go. Here we go.
This is a bit much, okay? But
All right, so people be scared to take
Oh,
risks.
shit, that's it?
Oh, that's
That's
it.
it.
Ooh.
Ah!
I look.
Cute.
Is
I
it
like-
really? Okay.
You ready to talk about money?
I
You
like
look like you got big money.
Oh,
too.
fucking right.
Old
I
money.
feel it. That's old money look like that.
Mhm.
Real old
Yeah.
money. That's
Wow.
it.
Go
That
ahead,
El
B.
Chapo type.
Yep, that's it. I feel it. With the cigar, and with the pipe, you on. You ready.
Officially.
Uh,
Officially. Take it away, B.
All right, what advice would you give people that get stressed easily or get overworked about lose? People don't want to lose money. Like, they're not trying to lose money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like the dudes in the street have a problem with washing their money, clean, all that type of stuff. They are so fearful of those things, they lose it. So, like, how do you help a person like overcome the anxiety of losing their money?
So let's think about this. First of all, anxiety is faith in the negative.
Mm-hmm.
You have painted a picture in your mind of something that has not happened, and you've already responded to it as if it happened. That's what anxiety is, right? That's what anxiety
Fear of
is,
something that
right?
hasn't
It
happened
happened
as
yet,
if.
and you're responding to it as if it happened. But so when I teach people about investing and the fear of losing money, so my perspective on losing money was completely different. It was easy because I came from the street, and then you already know that taking a loss is a part of the game. So you may get some product that's bad. You know, you may have to throw some product away. The police guy, you may gotta flush some product. You might gotta bond out of jail. You gotta get a lawyer. All of those are losses, right? So you take that as part of the game. I've never seen the hustler that said, I don't want to hustle because of the loss, right? You accept that as part of the game. It's different from people who straight come from 9 to 5
Working.
because you have now, watch this, you have now put yourself in a financial construct based on your wages, right? So your wages have dictated how your life flows. And so what happens is the idea of losing money puts you in a perspective of you lose something in your life. Well, for me to combat that, I say that you're not really scared of losing money. You're scared of not having control of money. Right? Because watch this. If you ask a person who said they're scared to lose money, just ask them for the last 12 months, what have they spent money on that has not given them a return?
It's a bunch of stuff.
Right?
For sure.
Right? So like how many things have you bought that you didn't need to buy? How many times you went to Target and bought candles and pillowcases that you don't need?
Shade. Much.
Not
Target.
You did.
We got mustache money. We can go to Target.
With the
All right. So what advice do you have for the people that are anxious about like possibly losing their money?
So I think the thing for them is
I'm being dead ass serious though,
this.
for real.
I love this. I like the flavor for that. So that's it. So I think losing money in the market is inevitable. You can't get around it. The thing to that is in order to make your first $10,000, you gotta be willing to lose $1,000. In order to make your first million, you gotta be willing to lose 100,000. So for me, I've had a situation, watch, this year, we made, from January to March, 1.5 million in the stock market. But I've had days where I lost $240,000. But that's a prerequisite.
Right.
Right, it's a prerequisite. The reason why people are scared to lose money is because they have a problem with the way that they're making money in the first place. When you think that most people is just a byproduct of not having information. It's a byproduct of not being exposed to it, right? So if you talk to somebody about losing $1,000, the reason they fear losing $1,000 because immediately think about how many hours did it take for me to make $1,000.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're now that pain point is I have to work this hard to make $1,000. Whereas if you ask somebody who's in a different situation, not even monetarily, but from an information perspective that understands that, yo, every dollar I make doesn't require me to bust my ass for it.
True.
So now once I look at money from that perspective, I'm like, yo, okay, I can go do this business venture. I can invest in this money. I can invest in the market. And if it doesn't go my way, that doesn't discourage me from being in the market. It just means that I got to go find a better way to do what I just did. It's never the market's fault. It's our fault.
It's definitely in a mindset and in a perspective because, and I think in our community, in the Black community, like we want a little finesse because we go to church and we take it now. Take it. It's all in the selling. It's all in the story. So like, what advice or how do you do it in a way that it's inviting? It's something that people want. Not saying that it's a finesse, but just saying how do you get people to desire the change?
Showing them that it's possible is one. So if like on my page, I never show like lifestyle. That's not my thing. Like you have people that show like fast cars and the houses and all that. That's not my thing. I show people the account every day.
This is receipts.
Just look at the account. Just look at the account. And what happens is it's hard for someone to believe in something. Like let's say I'm trying to teach somebody about the market and it hasn't changed my life yet. You're not gonna believe me. But if you see this change in my life and you see me consistently doing it, at some point, I always say that when a new truth collides with an old belief, you have to choose the one that serves you at the highest level. Right? So if you believe in something and then I present something to you consistently, and if that new truth that I show you collides with what you've believed in, you have to choose the one that serves you at the highest level. We have to do it.
Tough because it be conditioning, it be mindset.
And that's what it is.
It's like a slave mentality, honestly.
So it's not really, I have this.
Something about the church though, you know what I'm saying? Like we give money to the church and all of that.
What happens is there's a deep conditioning because of environment, but also there's a reason why 1% of the world of America is richer than the 99% of America. There's a reason why school was initially created. So school was created to prepare you to work in that box industrial complex. So it was created to position people to be workers. Now, I'm not the person to tell people don't go to work. I believe that everybody can't be entrepreneurs because you got to be half crazy to be one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Borderline.
You know what I'm saying? You got to be half crazy to be one. I believe that people should work jobs, but I also believe that everybody has what it takes to be wealthy. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be wealthy. You just got to be a dope ass investor. And you don't have to build $1 billion business because you can invest in it. So think about Facebook, think about Amazon, think about Microsoft. All of these things that we use, these are companies that we can invest in, right? And so to get people from that perspective is to expose them to the possibilities. Once somebody get exposed to something, once you see something, you can't unsee it.
You can't go back.
You know what I'm saying? And the problem is the reason why when I was in prison, the dude really made me a believer was because he showed me his paperwork that had $2.8 million on it.
How you got that paperwork in jail?
Well, you know, when you go to jail, when you go to jail, when you go to prison, he was in the feds. And so you have to have paperwork. So he was in prison for embezzlement.
Oh.
So I was doing 10 years for attempt murder. He was doing 18 months for embezzlement.
Okay.
Right? Even think about this. This dude just got found guilty for this crypto fraud, right? He got 25 years, but he had hit for something like $30 billion. How many dudes we know selling drugs done got 50, 60 years for something way less than that, right? And so what happens is information becomes the game changer, but exposure is the motivator. Why do you think slaves risk? The reason why some slaves risk their life for freedom was because somebody told them an idea what freedom was.
Yeah. And they had that drive in their
like, nah, and you start looking at yourself like, this is not it. You know what I'm saying?
Tired of being poor?
This ain't it. And so once you realize that the current situation isn't it, but somebody exposes you to something that's different, you don't have a choice but to choose the thing that positions you to be better in life. The problem with that is the internal work now has to take place because the battle now becomes what I know, and then the unknown. And then what we have not seen physically is the most scariest shit in the world.
All right, so when you got
Go ahead.
When you got your first lump sum of big money, how'd you feel and where'd you spend it?
So when I made my first $1 million, I was sleeping on my great aunt's sofa in Gentilly. And I did not leave the house for 2 weeks.
Yo.
I was scared.
Yeah.
I'm from New Orleans.
You scared $1 million. They know they on to me.
Coming to me.
And nobody in the crazy part was nobody knew I hit for it, but my paranoia kicked in. I was like, man, I'm not going outside. I remember just sitting inside, looking at my account. We really printed that. I really went and made that. I really went and did that. And I remember just showing my auntie before she passed, and we both cried.
Oh.
Because she was like, I know a fucking millionaire. So she went crazy. And we both looked at it and we talked about the family. We talked about what that meant for us. And she told me the burden that was now on me because I was now responsible for making sure that I wasn't the last one in the family.
That's what's up.
And she was like, boy, you done exposed us to some shit now. You know what I'm saying? You gotta keep it up. You gotta keep it up. You gotta keep going. And then I remember I made my second $1 million and I was still sleeping in her house.
On the couch still?
Very likely. So, okay, so we know you're responsible, of course.
Yeah.
And you be talking about don't overspend it, but what are some of your guilty splurges and pleasures? What do you waste your money on when you do?
Attire, luxury travel.
I'm a hotel snob.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a hotel snob. So I'll go somewhere and get a penthouse for sure.
Whoa.
I'll go somewhere for everywhere I go at, even in my crib, I'll be chilling in the crib, but I'll be like, yo, I need to go somewhere right quick. And I'll just go fly somewhere first class and I'll just go get I need the presidential suite.
A getaway. It's
so that's kind of that's my thing.
That's a good thing to splurge on
sure.
yourself.
Yeah.
I cannot take this girl.
It's all good, man.
I
raise the mustache up to
I just
drink.
wish I could see what's going on. I don't know
Lord.
what's going on. I can't laugh with y'all.
But that's a good thing to spin
I like
on.
it.
Between
Like,
that and my daughter.
yeah.
So her mama does tell me I buy her too much stuff. She be like, bruh, she gonna keep outgrowing.
You're gonna set up this. How is the next person go?
The ball for these.